Long before show horses, Fulton Parker had a few mules on his farm in Orem, North Carolina, and a grandson drawn to westerns on TV. Gene Parker grew up here. He worked at his dad's auto parts store in nearby Lumberton. Afternoons were occupied playing all three sports at Orem High School, but every morning before school, he rode his horse. Gene spent a lot of time at Frank Cox's sale barn. Gene accompanied him when he took his quarter-horse stallion to the match races in South Carolina and later raced his own. Teresa Balcom says when she was a little girl and Gene was a teenager, her daddy told them to always stand tall and wear broad shoulders. When Jeffrey Pate started showing in the early 70s, his father Eldon always stopped at Gene's to put his horses on the trailer to make the trip to some of the few quarter horse shows in the state. Gene was winning, and a local dentist was the first to send horses to Gene for training. Jeffrey says it was the beginning of nearly a lifetime of going down the road with Gene Parker. By 1977, Gene wanted his judge's card like mentor Eldon Pate and planned to accompany him to his first AQHA seminar. But weeks before, Eldon passed away. Jeffrey was 16, and Gene insisted that he come to work for him after school and weekends. Gene came into my life when I needed a strong personality, he said. We worked hard and showed hard. He gave me the structure and made me a man myself. As I've gotten older, I've realized the real impact Gene had on me. Our relationship was much more than horses. Gene had a superhuman work ethic, a perpetual desire for better, and an ability to focus on the things that built his business. Kyle's mother, Wanda, recalls being in labor with Kyle and Gene needing to stop at the barn to blanket the horses. In 1975, Gene won the Congress and Western Riding with Jack's Hi-Fi. He made him an AQHA champion and honor roll in 1976. Max Limit, a son of Boston Mac, was reserve world champion in Western Pleasure in 1979. Gene's first world champion was in 1987 with yearling stallion Sparkling Conclusion. He held a judge's card for 40 years, judged the world twice, and the youth and select world 4 times. He had 21 world champions and 16 reserve world champions. He was AQHA Professional Horseman of the Year in 2011 and an AQHA Director since 1995. In the late 80s, to accommodate more brood mares, he built a bigger barn. He and wife Bobby built a breeding empire. He stood T Coolest, One Silent Clue, Zip to Impress, Two Time and Smoothie, Mr. GQ, Chips Hot Chocolate, Sky's Blue Boy, and later Grand Slam Touchdown, and It's All About Blue.
We have 40 stalls back here.
Mayors were coming from across the U.S. because emphasis on timing and attention to detail ensured success. From a go-to for shipped semen, Parker Farms became a go-to for embryo transfers. Kyle says his dad worked all of the time, but made time to coach his baseball teams. Gene was always helping, but never asked for it. A man of few words who always asked how your family was. The organ donor who enabled others to live. The dad, trainer, coach, mentor, who, even if you won, would tell you how it could have been much better. Kyle says his dad's good was others' best, and his dad's good was never good enough. Former youth competitor Beth Woodby, who later worked for him, says, Gene was the foundation to my work ethic and dependability, and I'm forever grateful as he still whispers, there is always something to do. She says she wore out shoes in a month because at Gene's, you never got to sit down. Gene even remained his stoic self when his amateurs, Randy Creech, Dr. Mel Watson, and Harry Pittman, showed up with black cowboy hats they bought at a truck stop, complete with stampede strings, and insisted they were wearing them for the halter. In his later years, work made way for little bird hunting in Texas or Iowa. He made his mare, Nancy's Little Pep, a superior in cutting. After he turned 50, he got a rope horse. And the hardcore horseman felt the need for a Shetland pony. When Teresa Balcom was reserve at the Select World with Pawn Star, Gene met her at the gate and said, I'm proud of you. Your daddy is more proud. He commanded respect. In the early morning hours when first responders arrived in Fort Worth, riders dismounted, removed their hats, stood at attention. Time stood still as EMTs worked to resuscitate him. Jeffrey recalls his last road trip with Gene, driving home from the 2018 Youth World. With a crackle in his voice, he says Gene talked about his boys, how proud he was, how happy he was. Trent was reserve in the Mayers with homebred Cinderella style. Jeffrey says in all the miles and memories, this was the happiest he had ever seen him. Jeffrey plans to be for Kyle what Gene was for him. What was built by the man who never stopped working, who always stood tall, with broad shoulders, who would say it like it was, now passes to Kyle and Trent to continue. Gene wrote his last chapters with a way of life coming full circle, with more to come. Too soon, but what a way to finish up.